Hello, everybody. This is Tom Eckert here. You're listening to my podcast, Numerology, a GPS for the soul. This is your place to learn about the true power of numerology and how to use it to bring out the best in yourself, understand your loved ones better, take wise decisions, and prepare for your future. In other words, how to live your life aligned with your true destiny. Take your time to educate yourself and share these podcasts with your friends and family so they too can enjoy the great benefits of numerology. Enjoy! Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode in this now already growing podcast. I'm very delighted to get more and more emails from those of you who are interested in readings and also in studying numerology. It's really a joy for me. And to see that this podcast actually affects you, influences you, inspires you to grow, inspires you to learn numerology deeper. So that's my mission and my joy, and I'm super excited to see that it's working and it's growing. Having said that, in today's episode, I'm going to talk about something I believe many of you will connect to, which is how the numbers behave in relationships. So I'm going to attempt to cover a few points here, which is how each and every number from 1 to 9, I'm also going to say a few words about master numbers, how each number shows up in relationships. What each number brings into the relationship, the advantages, the disadvantages, the shadow sides of the numbers. I'm going to talk about which numbers are more naturally fitted, so to speak, quote unquote, into relationships and which are less. When I say relationships, I'm talking about, love relationships, more like romantic relationships, less about friendships, but more about intimate relationships. Okay, so let us jump directly into the water. So first of all, I want to kind of like talk about the numbers before I like go into each and every number. I want to reveal to you a few ways to look at the numbers that can really give you this perspective. What I mean by that is, for example, there are some numbers that are more emotional, other numbers that are less emotional, numbers that are more relationship oriented, numbers that are less relationship oriented, right? Some numbers are more committed by nature, some are less committed by nature. And so by understanding these number groups, and so you'll see what I mean by that, you can already get a hint of how these numbers are going to behave in an intimate relationship. So first and foremost, I would start with the numbers 2 and 6. Out of perhaps all the numbers from 1 to 9, 2 and 6 are the most what we can call relationship-oriented numbers. Numbers that by nature are more inclined towards emotional sharing, emotional bonding, a heart-to-heart connection, a one-to-one connection, loving this exchange of emotion and closeness, being together for the long run. So there's something by nature in these two numbers, 2 and 4, that we can say are more fitted, quote unquote, to relationships. Does that mean that they will always be like a good partner? Not necessarily. We already know, hopefully, and if we don't, I'll remind us that no number is better than another. It depends how much consciousness, how much awareness we bring into that number. A number can also function on its shadow side. So the emotions can be very, very murky, very, there can be a lot of baggage that is undealt with, a lot of inner turmoil that's undealt with, that's brought into the relationship. And in that sense, being emotional or relationship oriented can also be annoying or interfering or sabotaging. Let's go on. So I want to add another number here, and that's number 4. Number four can also work pretty well in relationships, but we have to understand that it's not so much relationship oriented in the sense of emotional, but rather committed. So in the group of committed numbers, I would like to add 4 and 6, or talk about 4 and 6. So in the committed group, we have those that are really made to build something for the long run. When you imagine, let's say, a person with a strong, or if you are a person with a strong 4 and 6 in your core chart, very often and very naturally you'll be kind of more inclined to build a family, a house. There's something super, you're like this, you're like this natural parent, a pillar in your family, someone to lean on, family and community. So in a relationship, 4 and 6 are super committed. Okay, let's move on. Another group of numbers, 2, 3, 6, and 9. Now, what's common to these 2, 3, 6, and 9? All of them are more emotionally open. So, by emotionally open, I mean are more receptive, are more flexible emotionally, have a natural kind of connection to a goodness and the heart, something more sweet, warm, around about these numbers. Now, as you can see, I'm not saying like they're going to be good partners or bad partners, but rather I'm simply presenting to you the qualities that they will bring into an intimate relationship. So 2, 3, 6, and 9 are going to be much more emotionally open, much more emotionally receptive, much more available to listen, for example. Okay? Moving on. The less emotionally open group. Okay? And in this group, we have 1, 4, 7, and 8. Right? So we see already 4 repeating here, right? Because 4, on the other hand, was in the group of the committed numbers, but then again, it's also less emotionally open. So you have commitment, but less emotion. So less emotionally open, we have 1, 4, 7, and 8, right? They're a bit more strict, a bit more controlling, a bit more mindy, right? More mind energy, thought energy, will. Some of them are more kind of like especially 1, 4, 1 and 7 to a degree 4, more kind of introverted in their own world. 8 is definitely more in their kind of like, they're having their projects, right? They have their goals. So all of them are very controlled, also more masculine in their approach. So less emotion, also less emotionally available, less emotionally exposed, less transparent about emotions, right? So you can, it can bring this quality of, on the one hand, clarity of direction, someone who's more like solid on their path, more practical and pragmatic, strong-willed, but less emotionally available, or at least not expressing their emotions in, through, or their love through emotions. Next group I want to talk about is what I call the less relationship oriented numbers, okay, by nature. So some numbers perhaps are literally like the whole concept of a relationship, this committed one on one structure, is just less their thing, okay, we can say. And in this group, I include 1, 5, 7, and 9. So, first of all, maybe you noticed, and if you didn't, I'll tell you, all these numbers are odd numbers: 1, 5, 7, and 9. There's something more revolutionary about odd numbers. They're much more individualistic by nature, they're much more rule breakers and also rule creators. Um, but specifically these four, 1, 5, 7, 9, there's something so out of the box about them. There's something so individualistic and free about those. Each one in their own way. Okay, we're going to talk about that as we kind of move through each and every number. But what I want to say about this group is that, in a sense, they are less naturally fitted into a relationship unless that relationship gives them the space to really, really be themselves. Okay? So only under these conditions they can thrive in a relationship. Or the other option would be if they have a balancing number. Okay? So if I have a 7, which is a very kind of like aloof, a loner, an introverted number that doesn't want to be disturbed, but there's also a 6, right, in the core chart, then there is some balance, okay? But in and of themselves, they're less relationship oriented. And lastly, the last group I want to talk about is what I call the less committed ones, okay? So we had the more committed earlier, 4 and 6, and now we have the less committed numbers. And we have in this group 1, 5, and 9, okay? 1, 5, and 9. Out of the 3, 5 stands like at the highest degree, okay? So 5 is the least committed out of those 3. By not committed, I mean numbers that are so free by nature and really need a lot of space, and sometimes even the whole concept like of committing to one person is not natural to them. Okay, we're going to talk about each and every number now that I presented these groups. Okay, I hope I already kind of like took you in with me on this journey into starting to feel how different numbers behave differently in intimate relationships. But now, as I'm going to talk about each and every number shortly, I hope that will give you like a deeper insight into those numbers. No, remember, numbers are the building blocks of your personality, of who you are, of your destiny, of your character, of your emotional self, of your mind, of what motivates and moves you in life. So we're talking about you here. So remember, right? Remember to have before you your 5 core numbers, and see how which of the numbers that we're talking about appears in your chart, right? So look at your 5 core numbers. Especially, by the way, look at the 3 most influential of your 5 core numbers. And I'm talking about the life path number, the expression number, and the soul urge number. They will give you the most the picture of the strongest energies in your overall blueprint. Okay, so that's these are like the ones you really want to know in terms of like intimate relationship and what you bring with you. Okay, so now that we laid the ground, let us dive deeper into the numbers. So starting with number 1 in relationships, in intimate relationships as a partner. So first of all, we already know, we talked about the group, so we already know that 1 is in the group of the less emotionally open and also in the less committed. So 1 is very direct, okay? 1s have very little filters. Basically, they're the kind of what you see is what you get type, okay? So there's something very direct about that. In a sense, it can be cool, like in the sense that there's not much hidden, but at the same time, it's still very focused on self. And, being very direct and straightforward can also, on the one hand, there can be potentially integrity in that. But at the same time, there can be something very selfish and insensitive. So, in a sense, they can be in a relationship so long or as long as they aren't disturbed too much and can live their own individuality. Okay, if you don't disturb them too much, if you let them do their thing, if you don't try to stand in their way too much, then they can be in a relationship. Shadow side, I mean, it's kind of like almost needless to say, but they're alone even when they're together. So yes, you give them their space, but they're alone even if they have a relationship. So it's kind of like their individual space is so strong and defined that sometimes they simply don't merge. Okay, they don't merge with you. They don't become the third entity that can become the result of 2 people merging. Sometimes it's not happening there. They're not emotional at all. Okay, they're really emotionally distant and also emotionally closed. That's number 1. Let's move on to number 2. So number 2 we already know appears in the group of relationship oriented numbers and in the emotionally open numbers. And that already tells us a lot about number 2 in relationships. So with number 2, first of all, is a natural in relationships, and they really want intimate relationships. They're a sensitive partner. They're very caring and kind. They love the one-on-one experience. They're sometimes even symbiotic. They love that kind of cuddly, close, you and me, our intimate time together. They long for intimacy. They need the togetherness. They love sharing emotion. And they're very sensitive. So, there's something really, they're really supportive as a partner. So in some way, if you are, or if you have a partner with a strong 2, that is not hampered or weakened by some kind of some kind of disharmonious number along with it, they can be wonderful. They can be really wonderful. But every number also has a shadow, and in the case of number 2, we need to remember that they can become very needy in relationships and develop strong dependency. So that's also the shadow side that 2 brings with it into a long-term or an intimate relationship. Moving on, we're talking about number 3. So number 3 we know appears in the group of more emotionally open numbers. They're not necessarily relationship oriented. They're not committed, but they're emotionally open. Somewhere kind of in between. So first of all, number 3 they bring color, and in that color also emotion is included, right? There's something artistic, there's something creative about the energy that they bring. There's a lot of color and beauty and rainbows, and I really mean it. Not in any like, I'm not trying to belittle anything. I think it's beautiful. They bring a lot of sweetness, a lot of openness, a lot of fun into a relationship. There's something positive, there's something good, naturally good about number 3 if they're functioning on their bright side. So they can be really fun to be around, like a real positive, supportive influence. They can really make the other feel good about themselves. And that's one of the beautiful gifts that 3 brings into a relationship. There's something also innocent. There's something naive in a sweet way about 3. So there can be like a romantic, there can be something magical in a relationship with number 3. Their shadow, on the other hand, can be that they are very shallow. They're very shallow emotionally. They're uncommitted. They're not serious. They're not really working on themselves. For example, if as a couple you go through difficulties or harder times or challenging times, they tend to be mentally lazy. There's something about them that doesn't really do the hard work. They don't like to really investigate deep. They like being told what to do. A little bit like kids, like children, right? Because 3 is the child element. So that can be very frustrating for the other side, and for them also, because they feel like when troubles happen, they feel like they don't understand why, and somehow they don't find in them enough inner resources to kind of pierce through that challenge and find new insights that will bring them to the next stage of the relationship. Moving on, we're talking about number 4. So with number 4, we know that they belong to the group of the more committed numbers and to the group of the less emotionally open. Okay, let's talk about them. So 4 is definitely a solid partner. There's something much more committed, solid, reliable. Definitely a friend for the long run, a friend that stays. So, if you found yourself a partner, a 4 partner that you really love, I mean, you're lucky because they are really good friends. You can really rely on them. They are like a rock in a relationship and in a family. You can rely on them definitely also in times of trouble. Definitely someone to build a life with, right? To build a home, something safe, solid, secure for the long run. Shadow is, as you can already imagine, they're very emotionally closed and even harsh. They are not flexible. And they're very controlling also. So there's something very mm, hard. It's hard to enter them emotionally. It's hard. They're not letting you in. And they're not very emotionally expressive as well. So they will show you love through deeds and actions, but there's not going to be a lot of emotion there. Okay. Um, and perhaps like another quality when they don't have like other balancing numbers, or when they're kind of like, maybe when the four is like, there's an excess of four in one's chart, then they can be also like really not exciting, like very squarish, sometimes even a little bit conservative in the way they handle their relationship and themselves. But remember, that's a shadow. It's not how they are by nature necessarily. Moving on, we're going to talk about number 5. And number 5 has appeared in two groups. One was the less relationship oriented numbers, and then the less committed ones. What does that mean about number 5? Well, number 5 is actually the best for relationships. I'm just kidding. Absolutely not. So, number 5, we're talking about like a free bird here. Okay, number 5 is, perhaps of all the numbers, like really the whole concept of relationship is like super alien to it. So they're not very much like a relationship type, at least not a long-term relationship. Okay, unless it's supported by other numbers in the chart. Okay, if there's a 5 and a 2, or a 5 and a 6, something along these lines, it'll balance. There's still going to be a lot of conflicts. Believe me, I've seen many people with these kind of charts. But 5 standing alone is not a long-term kind of intimate partner. They love exciting, romantic, sexy encounters. It's more like a one night stand, or, for example, open relationships, polyamorous relationships, um, or something along the lines of having a partner for, like, 3 months, moving on to the next one, right? So it doesn't mean, by the way, that it can never work. Um, but it'll have to have some balancing factor in the chart, some other number that supports and balances it. So they fall in love and then fall out of love and move on to the next one, right? That's really more the 5. So in a sense, okay, I'm describing 5 as someone who's just not fitting, right? So what would I say about the shadow? Well, this is kind of the shadow. 5 is less fitting into a relationship. But let's say they have some balancing factors and they do enter relationships, or they found a unique way to kind of, or a partner that really gives them like the space they want to be in that committed relationship, then their potential is being really open-minded, really flexible, a very enabling partner, very creative, very positive, super fun people to be with. And also exciting. So you if you have a 5 partner, because they have other, balancing numbers, you're gonna have a super exciting partner, fun, positive, very open-minded. And I think that's a gift. That's a great gift. So for you 5s out there, don't get discouraged. Or maybe you're not. Maybe you say, yay, finally someone confirms what I always knew. I have to just party and be with many people. So, but anyhow, just remember, it's about finding like the right environment for yourselves, because you're more like explorers, adventurers, free birds. Okay, moving on, we're talking about number 6. And number 6 belongs here to two groups as well. One is the relationship-oriented numbers, and to the more committed numbers. And, it can already tell us a lot about number 6. So number 6 as a partner, they're very loving. They are very committed, very warm, very embracing. It's really this warm parental heart energy that hugs you, and they're really well fitted to long-term intimate relationships. It's like it's written all over their face. So it's really it's a little bit similar to number 4, where we find this type that is very reliable, rooted, grounded. But with 6, we have this added element of emotion. There's a lot of emotion and warmth. It's really someone to build a family with. Very romantic, a giver by nature. So they're very nourishing as a partner. They're gonna shower you with a lot of goodness. Okay, a lot of generosity, emotional generosity. They're this natural provider. Okay, so as you can see, a lot of gifts. Something they fit like a glove into relationships. But of course, like any other number, they have a shadow. And in the case of number 6, we can say that they tend to sacrifice too much of their truth for the relationship. What does that mean? It means that sometimes when there's a fight and we want to grow through a fight, we don't want to just like tone things down and make everything okay, right? Like just to cover everything up or just swipe it under the carpet so that things are going to be quiet and good. This is like a tendency of number 6. So they just try to kind of brush everything under the carpet or suppress it. And very often it can drive the other one crazy because, dude, we need to work things out. It's okay to fight. It's okay to grow. It's okay to have friction and grow to the next stage. But they sacrifice a lot of the truth of what's happening just for things to be good, right? And that can cause a lot of future problems and explosions, often appearing later because they suppress and then it explodes. Great, so we're heading to number 7. And number 7 appears in 2 groups. One is the less emotionally open group and the less relationship-oriented by nature group. 7 is a kind of special number when it comes to relationships. So in a sense, yes, they're less of a relationship type by nature. I've said it. But, and here's an important point, an important but, unless the relationship is developmental, right? So 7 will be able to thrive in a relationship if the relationship is 1, developmental, 2, shares great depth and wisdom, and 3, perhaps shares a mutual path of growth. Imagine 2 scientists, or imagine 2 people on a spiritual path, right? So we're sharing something with depth and with meaning, something that is not just us, the relationship, right? There's something else that we're dedicated to that has to do with inquiry, depth, discovery, and we both share that. Remember that number 7 brings a lot of meaning into relationships. So if there's meaning and if the relationship maybe shares a higher purpose, then 7 can thrive in the relationship. Otherwise, they are loners. They don't like to be disturbed. And they need a lot of space inwardly for quiet introspection. So it's like they're deep, they're multi-layered, but they're also very critical and they want high quality. So they will flow into a relationship if that relationship offers subtle discussions, deep conversations, a profound sharing. This is their arena. That's where they thrive. The shadow side of number 7 is that in a relationship, they can be really critical, very cutting and judgmental, and often simply preferring to be alone and simply undisturbed. So you kind of want to, their partner might feel often they want to kind of pull them out and remind them, hey, we have a relationship here. It's not just a space that allows you to exist in your own inquiry and whatever scientific exploration or meditation. We have a relationship going on here. Okay, that's 7. Last two numbers. We're talking about number 8 next. And number 8, we have on the group of the less emotionally open numbers. So 8 is a kind of interesting number because, well, on the one hand, they have that even number energy to them, which means they want, in the end of the day, although they're very ambitious types, they do want to somehow, in the end, find themselves having like a partner. Okay, but still, like with everything, all the other aspects in their life, also a relationship for them is like a little bit of a project where they prove to themselves that they can and that they're strong and they can make it. And it's like, and it's another, how would I say it? It's like another element that where they kind of like prove themselves that they are successful and strong. So relationship for them is a bit of a project, but they can thrive in it so long as it kind of joins their career path. Right? So it kind of, if it gives them more strength to thrive as who they are. They're not very emotional. They're very developmental in a sense. So, for example, they can thrive in a space where each one pushes the other to grow, to overcome, to succeed, to move forward. They definitely need some action and some challenges. And that's perhaps where they thrive. So it's not like a quiet relationship. They need the kind of the buzz, the electricity moving through, and it has to somehow give them the feeling that they're becoming stronger and stronger over time, and that they're managing to overcome their weaknesses through the relationship, through the intimacy. But I mean, they do bring a lot of authority, a lot of strength, a lot of will. They can bring, simply on the most kind of like most um, how would I say, basic level, they can bring money and financial success also into the house. So that's also important. Let's not underestimate that. Shadow of 8 is that they can be aggressive, they can be over dominant, and downright violent sometimes. So that's something we have to keep in mind, especially if the 8 is in excess in a certain person's chart. They can be simply aggressive, and one has to simply know how to handle that energy. Okay, we've come to number 9, the last in our list. And number 9 appears in 3 groups, actually. That's cool. So number 9 appears in the emotionally open numbers, in the less relationship-oriented numbers, and in the less committed. So let's see what that means. So 9, first of all, we have to understand that they are a less conventional relationship type. 9 as this universal number, as I like to call it, I mean, they can be in a relationship, but they also can let it go, or they don't have to. Okay, let's put it this way. It depends. They are less personal by nature. They can be in a relationship so long as it includes lots of openness, out of the box attitude, a lot of travel, a lot of space, maybe even the option of having an open relationship and a polyamorous relationship, a little similar to number 5, but different here. Because number 5, it's more from the perspective of the sensual, sexual dimension. Number 9 is just like, doesn't perceive limitations. It's very, very universal, very impersonal. So they marriage or those conventional structures are less for them, unless there's a vision, unless it serves some great ideal, a little bit similar to number seven. If they share maybe a spiritual path, a utopian vision that they want to build together or share, space with vision and ideals, right? So that's more like number five. They do bring a lot of generosity, a lot of goodness, a lot of purity of heart into their relationship. They're definitely bringing a lot of inspiration, really, a lot of spiritual inspiration into the relationship. A very, very good and shining heart. So that's definitely something they bring with them, if they choose eventually to be in a relationship. Now, shadow, I would simply say that in terms of relationship, they can be too impersonal. And too impersonal means that there's something, if I would compare it for a moment to number two, right? With number two, everything is you and me. It's our unique bond, our unique connection. With number nine, it's almost like, and they don't help it. That's the way they perceive things. They see things as universal. What do you mean our love? There's just love, I could also be with that person over there and I could also share that love there, right? So there's something very universal, very impersonal, and sometimes it can be a little bit like not appreciating enough the specific love that they share with their specific partner. And maybe they won't experience it as annoying, but the other side definitely will. They will feel like there's nothing between you and me. I want to feel that you see me for who I am, your partner. Wonderful. So we've covered all the numbers from 1 to 9, but I don't want to end this episode without relating to you guys who have also master numbers in your core chart. Specifically, I'm going to talk about the 11-2, the 22-4, and the 33-6. First of all of them are sharing some quality of the numbers 2, 4, and 6, which gives us already a pretty good clue into how they are in a relationship. We've already talked about number 2, 4, and 6. So on that end, they can definitely work well in relationships. However, since they also work on the frequency of the master number digit, they definitely want something deeper. It's a little bit like a combination of 7 and 9. That's how I like to see it at least. They want to share something more developmental, more spiritual, perhaps even a relationship that contributes something to the world, right? That serves some purpose, some higher purpose, or where love can be shared in its more refined, more subtle forms. So that's really what the master number energy brings. But let's remember, and you can go back and I believe I created an episode about the master numbers, where they share this dual frequency, right? They're not always functioning on the master number frequency. And so if you have a master number, one of those three, you definitely have also the 2 or the 4 or the 6. Wonderful, guys. So I see that this episode ended up being not such a short one, but I hope that this gives you a deeper insight into the numbers and how they contribute to relationships, to intimate relationships specifically, what they bring into them. So as I said in the beginning, I really recommend to check your 5 core numbers. I have an article, a blog post on my website. You can simply go into the link of my website. It's in the description of my podcast, and just go through the blog post. And there's a blog post that teaches you how to calculate your 5 core numbers. Check what are your 5 core numbers, and especially, as I said, your life path, your expression, and your soul edge numbers. This will simply help you to understand what are the strongest influences in your chart regarding intimate relationships, and make sure, of course, to go through, maybe perhaps then re-listen if you didn't do that in the beginning, just to do your specific numbers. Awesome. Now, If some of you guys want to go deeper into numerology, I really recommend that you check my self-study numerology course in the link that's provided in the description of the episode. It'll really give you a wonderfully comprehensive journey into using numerology and simply, first of all, understanding it really well. Most websites or books don't build the information in such a step-by-step way with videos and worksheets and summary sheets and so on, and also teach you how to kind of use that information. However, if some of you want to learn numerology professionally, some of you have already contacted me through the podcast. So I'm reminding you, if you want to study with me one-on-one and really make it into either a profession or simply a method that serves you and your loved ones, you can contact me via my website, and I promise to write you back. And perhaps we can have a deeper studying journey. Otherwise, you can also contact me for a personal numerology reading if you want to go deeper into your own personal chart and find deeper answers on your eternal quest of inner growth. Okay, my friends, I really wish you well. I send you my blessings. Take care, and we will meet in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, and you want to go deeper into numerology, check out my website, tom-eckert.com. You can also book a numerology reading or even study numerology yourself through my courses. I'll see you in the next episode.